Single mother Melissa Carter juggles courthouse clerk duties and secret law studies, while her wealthy family views her as a failure. At her sister's opulent country club wedding, a shocking revelation from the groom turns the tables on years of judgment and dismissal. Forced into the spotlight, Melissa must finally embrace the powerful destiny she's quietly built while everyone believed she had given up. Before we begin, write in the comments where you're listening to our stories from. Subscribe to our channel, it's free, and you can always change your mind. Enjoy the story. Chapter 1. Invisible Dreams. The morning sunlight filtered through thin curtains in Melissa Carter's modest apartment in Boston. At 36, she stood before her bathroom mirror, adjusting her simple blouse, fingers tracing a faint line at the corner of her eye, before straightening her shoulders with determination. "Mom, have you seen my science worksheet?" called a young voice from the other room. Melissa's serious expression melted into a smile. "It's on the kitchen table where you left it last night, Sophie," she called back, quickly applying a touch of mascara. The bathroom counter held just a few modest makeup items, practicality over luxury these days. 10-year-old Sophie appeared in the doorway, worksheet in hand, her school uniform slightly rumpled. She was the spitting image of Melissa at that age. Bright-eyed and curious, but with a confidence Melissa had fought hard to maintain. "Got it!" "Are we running late again?" Sophie asked, her voice free of judgment. Melissa checked her watch. "Just on schedule, actually. Grab your lunch from the fridge while I finish up." Their morning routine was a well-choreographed dance of efficiency. Breakfast dishes in the sink, backpack by the door, Melissa's work bag packed with both legal documents for her clerk job and, hidden beneath, her own study materials. As they headed out, Melissa paused to straighten a framed photo on the entryway table. Her law school graduation, cap and gown, with her proud parents flanking her and a younger Rebecca looking somewhat overshadowed. It was the peak of being the family's golden child before life took unexpected turns. Their apartment building was modest but clean, populated by other working families. Mrs. Rodriguez from next door waved as she collected her mail. "Another late night, Melissa? I heard you up past midnight again." Melissa smiled apologetically. "Just catching up on some work." What the neighbor didn't know, what no one knew, was that those late nights weren't just about clerk paperwork. They were about reclaiming the dream that was interrupted when Eric walked out, leaving her 7 months pregnant and emotionally shattered. They climbed into Melissa's practical sedan, the upholstery clean but showing signs of age. As they drove to school, Sophie chattered about her science project, while Melissa listened attentively, asking questions despite the mental to-do list running through her head. "Mom, Lily's having a pool party for her birthday on Saturday. Can I go?" Melissa hesitated. "I have to work the morning shift, sweetie, but it's not until the afternoon." "Please? Everyone's going to be there." The pleading in Sophie's eyes was hard to resist. "Let me see if I can swap with Mark." "No promises, though." Dropping Sophie off at school, Melissa watched her daughter run to join her friends. Other mothers stood in clusters, some in business attire headed to professional jobs, others in designer casual wear with nowhere pressing to be. Melissa belonged to neither group, and the subtle glances occasionally cast her way hadn't gone unnoticed over the years. At the courthouse, Melissa greeted security with familiarity, her ID badge worn like second nature. The building had been her second home for years, though not in the capacity she once dreamed. As a court clerk, she managed the massive flow of paperwork that kept the justice system functioning, invisible but essential. "Morning, Carter," said Officer Jenkins. "Judge Reynolds was asking for you. Something about the Williamson file?" Melissa nodded. "Thanks. I'll head there first." The corridors of justice were familiar territory, and Melissa navigated them with quiet confidence. Lawyers in expensive suits brushed past, some nodding in recognition, others not seeing her at all. 3 years ago, this invisibility might have stung. Now Melissa understood its strategic advantage. In the clerk's office, she settled at her desk, quickly locating the Williamson file. Her colleague Mark looked up from his computer. Mail came early. "There's something fancy for you." An elegant cream envelope sat atop her keyboard, the embossed lettering catching the fluorescent light. Rebecca Carter and Nathan Pierce. Melissa's stomach tightened as she recognized her sister's wedding invitation. Mark raised an eyebrow. "Someone important?" "My sister," Melissa replied, slipping the envelope into her bag unopened. "I'll look at it later." The workday passed in a blur of filing, organizing, and assisting. During her lunch break, rather than joining colleagues in the break room, Melissa found a quiet corner in the law library. She pulled out a thick textbook and notebook filled with meticulous annotations. This had been her routine for almost 2 years now, stealing moments to study, prepare, rebuild. That evening, after dinner and helping Sophie with homework, Melissa finally opened the invitation. The elegant card announced the union of Rebecca Carter and Nathan Pierce at the Lakeview Country Club, 3 months from now. Attached was a handwritten note from Rebecca. Mom insists I invite you. Sophie can be a junior flower girl if she behaves. Try to dress appropriately. Melissa set the invitation down, emotions churning. 3 years of minimal contact, holiday cards, and the occasional awkward family dinner, and this is what their relationship had become. Her phone rang. Ellen Carter, her mother. "Did you get Rebecca's invitation?" Ellen asked without preamble. "Hello to you too, Mom. Yes, it just arrived today." "Well, will you be attending? Rebecca needs final numbers soon." Melissa hesitated. "I don't know, Mom. Things have been so strained. Nonsense. Family is family. Besides, what kind of message would it send if you're not there?" People would talk. The implication was clear. More embarrassment for the family to have the divorced daughter absent. "I'll think about it. Don't think too long. And Melissa, do something about your hair before then. That cut doesn't flatter your face shape. You're not getting any younger." After hanging up, Melissa stood at her small apartment window, looking out at the city lights. The weight of family expectations, even now, pressed heavily. A small voice interrupted her thoughts. Was that Grandma? Sophie stood in her pajamas, a book tucked under her arm. "Yes, sweetheart." "She was calling about Aunt Rebecca's wedding." Sophie's eyes lit up. "A wedding? Can we go? Will there be cake?" Melissa couldn't help but smile. "There will definitely be cake. But I'm not sure if we're going." "Why not? Is it because Aunt Rebecca was mean to you at Christmas?" Children miss nothing, Melissa thought. "It's complicated, honey. Adult relationships sometimes are. But she's your sister, and you always tell me that family should try to work things out." Out of the mouths of babes. Melissa sat on the sofa and patted the spot beside her. Sophie curled up, opening her book. "You're right. I should practice what I preach, shouldn't I?" As they read together, Melissa's mind continued processing. Perhaps this wedding could be an opportunity, not just for potential reconciliation, but for her to finally step back into family gatherings with her head held high. The next evening, after Sophie was asleep, Melissa pulled out a hidden folder from beneath her bed. Inside were official-looking documents, test scores, application forms, the path she'd been quietly forging while everyone, including her family, believed she'd given up. A memory flashed of younger Melissa in law school, boldly arguing a mock case, professors nodding in approval. Her future then seemed luminous and certain. Another flash, Melissa in a hospital gown, alone, cradling newborn Sophie, checking her phone for any response from Eric. None came. Back in the present, Melissa wrote a formal response to the wedding invitation, accepting for herself and Sophie. Whatever happened, they would face it together, with dignity. Chapter 2. Quiet Perseverance. The following weeks brought increased study time as Melissa prepared for a crucial milestone. Sophie had become accustomed to their routine. Dinner, homework, then Melissa studying at the kitchen table while Sophie read or drew nearby. "Mom, what does habeas corpus mean?" Sophie asked one evening, peering at Melissa's notes. Melissa looked up surprised. "It's Latin. It means, you shall have the body. It's a legal principle that protects people from being held in custody without proper cause." "So it helps innocent people?" "That's right. It's one of the cornerstones of our legal system." Sophie considered this. "Is that what you wanted to do before? Help innocent people?" The question caught Melissa off guard. They'd never really discussed her abandoned career dreams in detail. "Yes," she said softly. "And it's still what I want to do. It's just taking a different path than I expected." "Because of me?" Sophie's voice was small. Melissa immediately set down her pen and turned to her daughter. "No, sweetheart. Never because of you. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. The path changed because of many things, but having you has given me more strength and purpose, not less." Sophie digested this, nodding slowly. "I think you'd be really good at helping people." "You always know what's fair." Melissa hugged her daughter, emotion welling. "Thank you for believing in me." A week before the wedding, Melissa received a call from an unfamiliar number. Stepping away from her desk at the courthouse, she answered cautiously. "Is this Melissa Carter?" "Yes, this is she. This is Judge Sandra Hamilton's office. The judge would like to speak with you at your earliest convenience." Melissa's heart pounded. Judge Hamilton was one of the most respected jurists in Massachusetts. "Of course, I can come right away." In the judge's chambers, Melissa sat nervously. The elegant older woman studied her from behind an imposing desk. Mrs. Carter, Miss," Melissa corrected gently. Judge Hamilton nodded. "Miss Carter, I've been following your progress with interest." Melissa blinked in surprise. "Did you think no one noticed? Your work as a clerk has been exemplary, but more importantly, your night classes, your bar exam results. Quite impressive for someone balancing single parenthood and full-time employment." "Thank you, Your Honor. I've tried to be invisible about it." "Yes, I noticed that too. May I ask why?" Melissa considered her answer carefully. "When my personal life fell apart, Everyone had opinions about what I should do. Give up law completely. Focus only on motherhood. I found it easier to pursue my goals without constant judgment or unsolicited advice. Judge Hamilton smiled slightly. I understand completely, but hiding your light won't serve justice, Miss Carter. I've reviewed your application for the judicial appointment. Melissa's breath caught. She had applied, not expecting anything to come of it for years. The committee was impressed, as was I. There's just one final interview next week. Next week? Melissa's thoughts raced to the wedding. I believe the wedding is Saturday. Melissa nodded, wondering how the judge knew this detail. Good, then there's no conflict. Judge Hamilton rose, extending her hand. I look forward to potentially calling you colleague soon, Miss Carter. As the wedding approached, Melissa shopped for appropriately modest yet dignified outfits for herself and Sophie, stretching her budget to ensure they'd look presentable. The night before the interview, she practiced responses in her mirror, while Sophie pretended to be a tough questioner. What makes you think you'd be a good judge, Miss Carter? Sophie asked in a deepened voice, using a hairbrush as a microphone. Melissa smiled but answered seriously. My experiences have given me a unique perspective on justice. I understand how the system works from the ground up, and I've seen firsthand how legal decisions affect real people's lives. Sophie nodded approvingly. You're going to ace it, Mom. Thursday morning arrived, and Melissa dressed in her best suit, the one she saved for special occasions. Her interview was scheduled for 9 a.m., giving her time to drop Sophie at school first. Remember, no matter what happens, I'm already so proud of us, she told Sophie during the drive. We've built a good life together, and it's going to get even better. You'll see, Sophie said with characteristic optimism. The interview panel consisted of 5 people, including Judge Hamilton. Melissa's nerves settled as soon as she began speaking about her passion for the law and her vision for serving on the bench. Years of quiet determination flowed into articulate responses. After 90 intense minutes, Judge Hamilton walked her out. The committee will deliberate, but I want you to know personally that I was impressed with your candor and preparation. We'll be in touch very soon. Melissa returned to her clerk duties, trying not to fixate on the outcome. The next day passed in a blur of finalizing wedding preparations and helping Sophie practice her junior flower girl role. Friday evening, as they were packing for the wedding weekend, Melissa's phone rang. Miss Carter, the committee has reached its decision. Could you come in tomorrow morning? Tomorrow? I'm actually heading out of town for a family wedding tomorrow, Melissa explained. I see. Then I'm authorized to inform you by phone. Congratulations, Miss Carter. The appointment is yours if you accept. The world seemed to stop. After years of struggle and sacrifice, after rebuilding from scratch while caring for Sophie, after enduring her family's dismissal of her potential, the dream had materialized. Yes, I accept. Thank you so much. The swearing-in will be Tuesday morning. We'll send details by email. And Miss Carter, this achievement is well-deserved. Melissa sank onto her bed after hanging up, overwhelmed. Sophie peeked in, sensing something important had happened. Mom, are you okay? Melissa looked up, tears streaming down her face, but she was smiling. More than okay, sweetheart. I got the position. I'm going to be a judge. Sophie's eyes widened before she launched herself into her mother's arms. I knew it. I knew you could do it. They celebrated with ice cream and a dance party in their living room. Later, as Sophie slept, Melissa considered whether to share her news at the wedding. After reflection, she decided against it. This weekend should be Rebecca's moment in the spotlight. There would be time to tell family later, in a less public setting. With that decision made, Melissa carefully packed her modest but elegant outfit for the wedding, checked that Sophie's junior flower girl dress was wrinkle-free, and finally allowed herself to feel the full measure of her accomplishment. Whatever happened tomorrow, she'd walk into that country club knowing her own worth. Chapter 3. The Country Club. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear. Perfect wedding weather. Melissa loaded their bags into the car, checking twice to make sure she hadn't forgotten Sophie's flower girl accessories. The Lakeview Country Club was an hour's drive away, in the affluent suburb where Melissa grew up and where her parents still lived. As they left the city behind, Sophie watched the landscape change from urban to increasingly exclusive neighborhoods. Large houses set back from tree-lined streets, manicured public spaces, luxury car dealerships instead of discount stores. Was this where you lived before? Sophie asked, pressing her nose against the window. Not exactly here, but similar, Melissa answered. Grandma and Grandpa's house is about 10 minutes from the country club. It's pretty, but I like our apartment too. Melissa smiled at her daughter's loyalty. So do I, sweetheart. As they approached the Lakeview Country Club, the contrast became stark. The entrance was flanked by stone pillars and flower beds bursting with professionally maintained blooms. A sign indicated Pierce Carter Wedding with an arrow. Melissa followed it to the designated parking area. The lot was filled with luxury vehicles, sleek German cars, high-end SUVs, even a couple of vintage sports cars. Melissa's practical sedan looked conspicuously out of place as she pulled into an empty spot. She checked her appearance in the rearview mirror, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Ready for this?" she asked Sophie, who was practically bouncing with excitement. "So ready. Do I look okay?" Sophie's dress was simple but pretty, a pale blue that brought out her eyes, purchased on sale but no less lovely for it. "You look beautiful, honey. Remember what we talked about? This is Aunt Rebecca's big day, so we need to be on our best behavior and not do anything to take attention away from the bride." "I remember, Mom." They followed signs to the bridal preparation suite. The country club was even more impressive inside. Polished marble floors, crystal chandeliers, floral arrangements that probably cost more than Melissa's monthly rent. A few guests were already arriving for the ceremony, dressed in attire that screamed wealth and status. Outside the bridal suite, Melissa hesitated, then knocked softly. A bridesmaid she didn't recognize opened the door, champagne flute in hand. "Yes?" she asked, looking Melissa up and down. "I'm Rebecca's sister, Melissa, and this is Sophie, the junior flower girl." The bridesmaid's expression shifted slightly. "Oh, right. Come in. Rebecca mentioned you might be coming." The room was a flurry of activity. Hairstylists, makeup artists, multiple bridesmaids in matching robes taking selfies. In the center of it all was Rebecca, looking radiant in her half-finished wedding attire. Their mother, Ellen, hovered nearby, directing various aspects of the preparation. Rebecca spotted them and offered a perfunctory smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You made it. Good." Melissa approached, giving her sister an awkward hug. "Wouldn't miss it. You look beautiful, Rebecca." "Thanks," Rebecca replied, distracted by the makeup artist applying a final touch to her eyes. "Mom, Sophie needs to get ready with the flower girls." Ellen turned, noticing them for the first time. "Melissa, there you are." She kissed the air beside Melissa's cheek, then immediately frowned. "Didn't you get a haircut like I suggested? This style ages you and you look tired." Before Melissa could respond, Ellen turned to Sophie with a warmer smile. "Hello, darling. Don't you look pretty? Come with Grandma. I'll take you to the other girls." As Ellen led Sophie away, Melissa stood awkwardly in the midst of the bridal chaos. One of the bridesmaids offered her a champagne flute, which she declined. "Water would be fine, thanks." Rebecca glanced at her sister through the mirror. "No champagne? Still the responsible one, I see." There was an edge to her voice that Melissa chose to ignore. "It's a bit early for me. Besides, someone needs to drive us home later." Rebecca turned back to the mirror. "Nathan's family reserved a block of rooms here at the club. Everyone's staying over for the brunch tomorrow." "We can't. Sophie has school on Monday, and I have—" Melissa stopped herself before mentioning the swearing-in ceremony. "Work? I know," Rebecca said dismissively. "The court can't function without its dedicated clerk, right?" One of the bridesmaids leaned into Rebecca. "Your sister works at a courthouse? Is she a lawyer?" Rebecca laughed lightly. She was supposed to be. Top of her class at Harvard Law School. Everyone had such high hopes. And she threw it all away for a quickie marriage that lasted what? A year? Melissa stood very still, maintaining her composure despite the sting. 10 months. And I didn't throw anything away, Rebecca. Life took a different turn. Right. A turn that left you a single mom working as a clerk, while the rest of us actually fulfilled our potential. Rebecca turned to her friend. Nathan's a rising star prosecutor downtown. They say he'll make district attorney before he's 40. The bridesmaid looked impressed, casting a pitying glance at Melissa. The moment was interrupted when the wedding planner burst in. "Ladies! Ceremony in 45 minutes. Bride, we need final dress fitting now." Grateful for the interruption, Melissa slipped out to find Sophie. She located her with the other junior attendants, already bonding and practicing their petal-tossing technique under Ellen's supervision. "Mom! I get to hold a special basket with rose petals," Sophie called excitedly. Ellen straightened up. "Melissa, there you are. The hair and makeup people could still fit you in if you hurry. You look a bit plain." "I'm fine, Mom, really. I did my own makeup," Ellen frowned. "At least let them add some concealer under your eyes. Those dark circles make you look exhausted." "I said I'm fine," Melissa repeated more firmly this time. "Where should Sophie and I be for the ceremony?" Ellen sighed dramatically but provided directions. As they walked through the venue to the garden where the ceremony would take place, they passed Nathan's groomsmen gathering for photos. The men were all in expensive tuxedos, laughing and clapping each other on the back. Melissa hadn't yet met her future brother-in-law, having missed the engagement party due to work. She'd only seen photos and heard Rebecca's gushing descriptions of his legal brilliance and career trajectory. The garden was a vision of elegance. White chairs with satin bows arranged in neat rows, an arch of white roses where the couple would exchange vows, and a string quartet playing softly as guests began to arrive. Melissa and Sophie found seats near the back, as no specific place had been reserved for them. Extended family members passed by, some offering brief acknowledgments, others pretending not to notice them. Melissa maintained a pleasant expression throughout, though she felt the weight of their judgment. "Mrs. Bailey was my third-grade teacher," Sophie whispered, pointing discreetly to an older woman several rows ahead. "I didn't know she knew Aunt Rebecca." "Your school is in this district, honey. Many people here are connected to the community I grew up in." "Is that why they keep looking at us funny?" Melissa's heart sank that Sophie had noticed. "They're just curious. It's been a while since they've seen us." The ceremony was about to begin when a wedding planner hurried over. "Sophie, you need to be with the flower girls at the entrance. Quickly now!" Sophie looked to Melissa, who nodded encouragingly. "Go ahead, sweetie. You'll do great." Left alone, Melissa felt increasingly conspicuous. An older couple seated nearby whispered while glancing in her direction. She caught fragments, Carter's elder daughter, and such a shame, and the divorced one. She sat straighter, focusing her attention on the string quartet as they transitioned to the wedding march. The procession began, groomsmen and bridesmaids, then the adorable flower girls, including Sophie, who executed her petal scattering with perfect concentration. Finally, Rebecca appeared on their father's arm. She was undeniably stunning in her designer gown, a vision of bridal perfection. Despite the tension between them, Melissa felt a genuine swell of happiness for her sister. As the bride passed, Melissa caught her first clear look at Nathan Pierce. Tall and handsome in his tuxedo, he exuded confidence and success, the perfect match for Rebecca's ambitions. Something about him seemed vaguely familiar, but Melissa couldn't quite place it. The ceremony proceeded beautifully. The vows were personal and touching, the ring exchange flawless. Throughout it all, Melissa noticed Nathan glancing in her direction several times with a curious expression, as though trying to place her. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, the crowd erupted in applause. Melissa clapped sincerely, happy that despite everything, her sister had found someone who clearly adored her. As the newlyweds processed back down the aisle, Nathan's eyes met Melissa's directly. There was a flash of recognition in his expression, quickly masked as he continued walking with his bride. The guests moved toward the reception area as the wedding party remained for photographs. Sophie ran back to Melissa, beaming with pride. "Did you see me, Mom? I didn't drop any petals too early." "You were perfect, sweetheart." The most beautiful flower girl there. A photographer approached them. "Excuse me, the bride is asking for the flower girls for photos." Sophie looked to Melissa for permission. "Go ahead. I'll find our place at the reception." What Melissa didn't know was that the evening would soon take an unexpected turn, one that would force her family to see her in an entirely new light. Enjoying our stories? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any of our upcoming content. Now let's get back to our story. Chapter 4: The Reception. The grand ballroom had been transformed for the reception. Crystal centerpieces, fine china, silver place settings. Guests milled about, finding their assigned tables, each marked with an elegant calligraphed card. Melissa searched for their names, moving from table to table. She checked the family section first, then the friends of the bride section. Nothing. Finally, she spotted Melissa and Sophie Carter at a table near the back of the room, partially hidden behind a decorative column. They'd been seated with distant acquaintances and the wedding planner's assistant. Swallowing her hurt, Melissa placed her small gift on the present table and made her way to their assigned seats. She introduced herself to the others at the table, who seemed surprised to learn she was the bride's sister. "Oh, I assumed you were a work colleague or something," one woman said. "I'm Nathan's mother's tennis partner's daughter. Family would usually be seated up front, wouldn't they?" Melissa forced a smile. "I'm sure the planners had their reasons. It's a lovely event, isn't it?" The cocktail hour dragged as Melissa watched her parents and extended family laughing together at prime tables near the dance floor. Ellen caught her eye once, but quickly looked away, continuing her conversation with a woman in an expensive suit. Sophie finally returned from photos, bubbling with excitement about being included in pictures with the bride. "Aunt Rebecca let me hold her bouquet for one picture, Mom, and the big flower girls were super nice to me." "That's wonderful, honey. Are you hungry? I think dinner will be served soon." As they waited, Melissa overheard two women at the next table gossiping, not bothering to lower their voices. "That's the sister, the one who had so much potential before she threw it all away on that bad marriage. Such a waste. Top of her class at Harvard Law, wasn't she? Now look at her. And bringing her child to a formal wedding. Well, I suppose she couldn't afford a sitter on a clerk's salary." Melissa kept her expression neutral, though the words cut deep. She was about to suggest to Sophie that they get some air when the MC announced the entrance of the wedding party. Everyone rose, applauding as bridesmaids and groomsmen paraded in, followed by the beaming newlyweds. During dinner, several relatives stopped by other tables to chat. but no one approached Melissa and Sophie except for Melissa's father, who briefly patted Sophie's head and asked if she was enjoying the food before being called away by Ellen. "Why aren't we sitting with Grandma and Grandpa?" Sophie whispered. "Wedding seating is complicated, sweetheart. They have to balance a lot of factors." When the meal concluded, Melissa decided to make a proper effort. Taking Sophie's hand, she approached the head table to congratulate the couple. "Rebecca, Nathan, congratulations. It was a beautiful ceremony." Rebecca accepted her words with a nod. "Thanks for coming." "Sophie did well with the flowers." Nathan studied Melissa intently. "Have we met before? You look familiar." Before Melissa could respond, Rebecca laughed. "I doubt it, honey. Melissa doesn't exactly move in legal circles anymore. Not like she was supposed to." A flash of discomfort crossed Nathan's face at his wife's tone. "I'm a court clerk downtown," Melissa offered simply. "That must be it," Nathan said, though his expression suggested he wasn't entirely convinced. He extended his hand. "It's good to finally meet you, Melissa. Rebecca's mentioned her sister, of course." His politeness only seemed to irritate Rebecca, who quickly turned to greet other guests. Nathan gave Melissa an apologetic look before following his bride. As they returned to their table, Ellen intercepted them. "Melissa, dear, your hair is falling flat. Let me fix it for you." Without waiting for permission, she began rearranging Melissa's carefully styled locks. "You always had such problematic hair." Rebecca got the good genes. Sophie watched this interaction with confusion. "Mom's hair is pretty," she piped up loyally. Ellen patted Sophie's cheek. "Of course it is, darling. I'm just helping her look her best. After all, there are photographers everywhere." The implication that Melissa needed fixing to be presentable in photos stung, but she said nothing, not wanting to create a scene. The dancing began, and Melissa watched from their distant table as her sister and new husband took their first dance. They made a striking couple, both so polished and confident. For a moment, Melissa allowed herself to wonder what her life might have been like if Eric hadn't left, if she'd followed her original path. The thought was interrupted by Sophie tugging her hand. "Can we dance too, Mom? When the floor opens to all guests?" Melissa led Sophie out for a mother-daughter dance. They laughed together as Sophie attempted a twirl, momentarily free from the weight of judgment surrounding them. The evening continued with more dancing, cake cutting, and toasts. Throughout it all, Melissa noticed Nathan watching her occasionally with that same puzzled expression, as though trying to solve a mystery. During a lull in the festivities, Melissa excused herself to use the restroom. In the elegant ladies' room, she encountered Rebecca touching up her makeup. "Your dress is stunning, Rebecca. You make a beautiful bride." Rebecca met her eyes in the mirror. "Thanks." After a pause, she added, "I'm surprised you came, honestly. You're my sister." "Of course I came." "We've barely spoken in 3 years, Melissa. Let's not pretend we're close." Melissa sighed. "I know things have been strained. I'd like to fix that if possible." Rebecca applied another coat of lipstick. "Fix it? Like you fixed your life after Eric left?" "Some things can't be fixed, Melissa." Having Sophie was never something that needed fixing, Melissa said quietly but firmly. "And neither was pursuing my own path, even if it wasn't the one everyone expected. Your path is a dead end. Nathan says court clerks have no room for advancement. You'll be pushing papers until retirement." Melissa almost revealed her news then, but stopped herself. This wasn't the time or place. "I'm happy for you, Rebecca, truly. Nathan seems like a good man." "He's brilliant," Rebecca said, pride evident in her voice. "He can make or break anyone in court. His conviction rate is the highest in the district." She studied Melissa's reflection. "It's funny. He could have been your colleague if you hadn't thrown everything away." "I didn't throw anything away," Melissa repeated, maintaining her composure. "I just took a detour." "A detour that led nowhere." Rebecca gathered her things. "Anyway, I should get back. My husband is waiting." As Rebecca left, Melissa took a moment to steady herself. The constant reminders of her perceived failure were exhausting, but she reminded herself of Tuesday's swearing-in ceremony. Soon enough, her family would understand she never gave up on her dreams. Returning to the reception, she found Sophie yawning at their table. It was getting late, and they had a long drive home. Perhaps they should leave early, before the bouquet toss and final festivities. "Ready to head out, sweetheart?" she asked, stroking Sophie's hair. Sophie nodded sleepily. "Can we say goodbye to Aunt Rebecca first?" "Of course." They approached the head table again, where Rebecca was surrounded by bridesmaids and admirers. "We're going to head home now," Melissa said when there was a break in conversation. "Thank you for including us in your special day." "Leaving already?" Ellen appeared beside them. "The party's barely started. What will people think?" "That Sophie is 10 years old and it's approaching her bedtime," Melissa answered calmly. Ellen frowned. "At least stay for Rebecca's speech. She's about to thank everyone." Melissa hesitated, but Sophie looked genuinely tired. "I really think we should—" But the MC was already tapping the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, the bride would like to say a few words." All eyes turned to Rebecca, who stood gracefully, champagne in hand. Melissa reluctantly remained, one arm around Sophie's shoulders. "I want to thank everyone for celebrating our perfect day," Rebecca began, her voice slightly amplified by the champagne she'd consumed. "Nathan and I are so blessed to have such wonderful friends and family supporting us." She continued with the typical wedding speech gratitude, acknowledging parents, friends, and wedding party members. Then her gaze found Melissa at the back of the room. "I see my sister is trying to sneak out early." Typical Melissa, always leaving before the job is done. The room fell uncomfortably silent. Melissa froze, feeling all eyes turned toward her and Sophie. A hushed anticipation fell over the reception hall as Rebecca's focus locked onto Melissa. The bride's smile remained in place, but something shifted in her eyes. A glint that Melissa recognized from childhood arguments when Rebecca felt overshadowed and sought to reclaim attention. "For those who don't know my older sister," Rebecca continued, her voice carrying through the silent room, "let me introduce you to the cautionary tale of our family." Ellen laughed loudly, encouraging others to treat this as a joke, but many guests looked uncomfortable. Sophie pressed closer to Melissa, confused and alarmed. Melissa was the golden child, valedictorian, Harvard Law, the whole package. Our parents' pride and joy. Rebecca's voice took on a bitter edge, until she threw it all away on a man who left her high and dry. Now she's a walking lesson in how quickly potential can go to waste. Melissa stood frozen, humiliation washing over her. She could feel Sophie trembling beside her, and that, more than anything, broke the spell of shock that had held her in place. But before she could respond, Nathan stood, his expression suddenly serious. He took the microphone from his wife's hand. "Actually," he said, his voice measured but clear, "I think I've just realized where I know Melissa from." Rebecca looked at him in confusion. "What are you talking about?" Nathan turned to address the crowd. "I received a memo yesterday about upcoming judicial appointments. I didn't put it together until now." He looked directly at Melissa. "You're going to be Judge Carter, aren't you?" A collective gasp rippled through the ballroom. Rebecca's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. "I believe I'm scheduled to appear in your courtroom next Tuesday for the Henderson case," Nathan continued. "Congratulations on your appointment. The Boston legal community is lucky to have you." The silence in the room was deafening. All eyes shifted from Nathan to Melissa, who stood straight, holding Sophie's hand tightly. "Thank you, Nathan," she said, her voice steady despite the emotions churning inside her. "Yes, I'll be sworn in on Tuesday morning." Ellen stepped forward, her face a mask of disbelief. "What? You're a judge? But how? When?" "I never stopped pursuing my dream, Mom," Melissa answered quietly. "I've been taking night classes and studying for years while working at the courthouse. Judge Hamilton recommended me for the appointment." "Judge Sandra Hamilton?" someone gasped. "She's the most respected judge in the district." A murmur of impressed voices spread through the crowd. Rebecca remained frozen, the color draining from her face as her cautionary tale narrative crumbled before her eyes. Chapter 5. Truth Revealed. "I didn't say anything earlier because I didn't want to overshadow Rebecca's day," Melissa explained, her voice gaining strength. "And frankly, after how I've been treated by my family, I wasn't sure you'd even believe me." Sophie looked up at her mother with pride shining in her eyes. Ellen's hand flew to her throat, her perfectly manicured nails catching the light as she struggled to process this information. Robert Carter, Melissa's father, who had been largely silent and in the background all day, stepped forward. "Is this true, Melissa?" he asked, his voice carrying a hint of the pride that had been absent for years. "Every word," she replied. "You can attend the swearing-in ceremony if you'd like. It's at the federal courthouse downtown, 9 a.m. Tuesday." The whispering around the ballroom grew louder. Melissa could hear fragments. Single mother, secretly studied, judge at her age. But this time the tone was admiring rather than pitying. Rebecca still hadn't moved, the microphone now limply at her side. Nathan gently took it from her and handed it to the MC before turning back to Melissa. "I apologize for my wife's behavior," he said in a low voice. "And I'm genuinely impressed by what you've accomplished." "Thank you," Melissa replied. Then, with more strength than she'd felt in years, she addressed the room. "Sophie and I will be leaving now. It's been a lovely wedding. Congratulations to the bride and groom." With her head held high, Melissa guided Sophie through the ballroom. As they walked, something remarkable happened. People began to applaud, softly at first, then with growing enthusiasm. By the time they reached the door, the applause had spread throughout most of the reception hall. In the parking lot, Sophie finally spoke. "Mom, was that true? Everyone knows you're going to be a judge now." Melissa knelt to look her daughter in the eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. I wasn't planning to share it today, but sometimes life has other plans." Aunt Rebecca looked really surprised. "I think everyone was surprised," Melissa said, opening the car door. Including me. I didn't expect Nathan to know about my appointment. As they drove away from the country club, Sophie fell asleep in the back seat. Melissa's phone began buzzing with notifications. No doubt family members and old acquaintances suddenly eager to reconnect with the soon-to-be Judge Carter. She ignored them, focusing on the road ahead and the remarkable turn this day had taken. Sunday morning brought a flood of calls. Ellen's name appeared on Melissa's screen 3 times before she finally answered. "Hello, Mom. Melissa?" Ellen's voice sounded different, hesitant, almost respectful. That is, your father and I would like to come visit today, if that's convenient." Melissa considered this. "Sophie has homework, and I need to prepare for Tuesday, but you're welcome to stop by for coffee around 2. A pause. "That would be fine. Thank you." The apartment that had seemed so small and inadequate yesterday now felt like a space of triumph. Melissa spent the morning helping Sophie with her science project, then tidying up for her parents' unprecedented visit. At precisely 2 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Ellen and Robert Carter stood awkwardly in the hallway, looking out of place in their expensive clothes. Ellen clutched a large gift bag. "Come in," Melissa said, stepping aside. They entered, glancing around the apartment with new eyes, not seeing the modesty of it, but noticing the framed law books on the shelves, Sophie's art proudly displayed, and the neat stack of legal briefs on the dining table. "Hello, Grandma, Grandpa," Sophie greeted them, more reserved than usual after yesterday's events. "Hello, darling," Ellen said, handing her the gift bag. "This is for you, a little something to celebrate your mother's achievement." Sophie looked to Melissa, who nodded permission to open it. Inside was an expensive tablet, the kind Melissa had never been able to afford. "Thank you," Sophie said politely, though her expression remained wary. "Coffee?" Melissa offered, leading them to the small living room. Robert cleared his throat. "Melissa, I don't quite know how to say this, but we owe you an apology." Ellen nodded stiffly. "We misjudged you. Terribly." "Yes, you did," Melissa agreed, not making it easier for them. "How did you manage it?" Ellen asked. "Working full-time, raising Sophie, studying law again." "One day at a time," Melissa replied, "with determination and very little sleep." She handed them each a mug of coffee. "And with no support from my family," Robert winced. "We thought you'd given up. When you took that clerk job, you assumed I'd failed," Melissa finished for him. "You never asked what my plans were." "Did Rebecca know?" Ellen asked. "No, nobody knew except Sophie." Melissa smiled at her daughter. "She's been my biggest supporter." "And Judge Hamilton," Robert said with newfound respect in his voice. "She's a formidable jurist. For her to recommend you—" "She recognized my work ethic and potential," Melissa said. "Something my own family couldn't see." The conversation continued, somewhat strained but gradually warming as her parents began to see Melissa through new eyes. Before they left, Robert paused at the door. "We'd like to attend the ceremony on Tuesday, if that's all right." Melissa considered this. "You're welcome to come, but understand something. I'm proud of what I've accomplished on my own terms. I don't need validation now that I've succeeded." Robert nodded soberly. "Understood." After they left, Sophie hugged her mother tightly. "Are you happy they came?" Melissa thought for a moment. "I'm cautiously optimistic. People can change when they're shown they're wrong, but real change takes time." "Like becoming a judge," Sophie said wisely. "Exactly like that," Melissa agreed, kissing the top of her head. Monday morning brought another surprise, a text from Rebecca. "Can we talk?" Alone. Melissa arranged to meet her sister at a coffee shop halfway between their homes during her lunch break. Rebecca was already there when she arrived, looking far different from the radiant bride of Saturday. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she fidgeted nervously with her enormous diamond ring. "Thank you for meeting me," Rebecca said as Melissa sat down. "You're still my sister," Melissa replied simply. Rebecca looked down at her untouched latte. "I was horrible to you at the wedding and, well, for years before that. Yes, you were. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, or maybe ever." Rebecca looked up, meeting Melissa's eyes. "But I want you to know that I'm sorry, truly sorry." Melissa studied her sister, seeing beyond the perfect exterior to the insecurity beneath. "Why did you do it? The speech at the wedding?" Rebecca's shoulders slumped. "Jealousy, I think. Even when you were down, when everything had fallen apart for you, there was something unbroken about you, something stronger than I've ever been." "That's not true," Melissa said gently. "We're all strong in different ways." "Nathan hasn't stopped talking about how impressive you are," Rebecca admitted with a weak smile. "He's mortified about what happened." "He has nothing to be mortified about. He behaved with dignity," Rebecca nodded. "More than I did." She hesitated, then asked, "How did you do it, Melissa? All of it? On your own?" For the first time in years, Melissa saw genuine interest in her sister's eyes, not judgment or comparison. And so she began to tell her story, the late nights, the sacrifices, the small victories that kept her going when everything seemed impossible. By the time they parted, something had shifted between them. Not forgiveness exactly, not yet, but understanding. A foundation that might, with care, grow into something stronger. "I'll be there tomorrow," Rebecca promised as they said goodbye. "If you want me to be," Melissa nodded. "I'd like that." That evening, as she laid out her outfit for the ceremony, a new suit she'd purchased as soon as she received the appointment, Melissa reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought her to this moment. Chapter 6. The Oath. Tuesday morning arrived with a sense of destiny. Sophie, dressed in her best school clothes, sat on Melissa's bed watching her mother prepare. "Are you nervous?" she asked, swinging her legs. Melissa adjusted her collar in the mirror. "A little, but mostly I feel ready." The new suit fit perfectly. Charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes, professional without being severe. Melissa had splurged on it the day after receiving the appointment, her one indulgence to mark this milestone. "You look like a judge already," Sophie declared. Melissa smiled, pinning her hair into a simple but elegant twist. "What does a judge look like?" Sophie considered this seriously. "Strong, smart, fair?" She grinned. "Like you." Melissa's phone chimed with a text from her father. "We're all here." Courtroom filling up quickly. "Time to go," she told Sophie, taking a deep breath. "Ready to see your mom become a judge?" Sophie jumped up. "I've been ready for years." The federal courthouse looked different today. Not as a workplace, but as a milestone. As they approached the entrance, Melissa was surprised to see Officer Jenkins in his formal uniform standing at attention. "Officer Jenkins," he smiled broadly. "Couldn't miss this, Miss Carter, or should I say, Your Honor." "Not quite yet," she laughed, touched by his presence. Inside, the designated courtroom was indeed filling rapidly. Melissa was astonished to see not just her parents and Rebecca, but Mark from the clerk's office, Mrs. Rodriguez from their apartment building, and even Sophie's teacher. Judge Hamilton stood near the bench, resplendent in her robes, speaking with several other judges. "Quite a turnout," said a voice behind her. Melissa turned to find Nathan, dressed in a conservative suit, briefcase in hand. "I'm surprised to see you here," she admitted. "Don't you have cases today?" "I rescheduled," he replied. "This is important." "And?" He hesitated, lowering his voice. "I wanted to apologize again for Saturday. Rebecca's still processing everything." Melissa glanced across the room where her sister sat stiffly beside their parents. "We had a good talk yesterday." "It's a start," Nathan nodded. "For what it's worth, I think you'll make an exceptional judge." "Even when I'm ruling against you?" Melissa asked with a slight smile. "Especially then," he answered seriously. "The bench needs people who understand how the law affects real lives." A court official approached. "Judge Hamilton is ready for you, Miss Carter." Melissa knelt to hug Sophie. "Wait here with Grandma and Grandpa. This won't take long." "I'll be watching everything," Sophie promised. In the robing room, Judge Hamilton helped Melissa into the black judicial robe that symbolized her new role. "Nervous?" the older woman asked. "A bit," Melissa admitted. "Good. A healthy respect for the responsibility you're about to undertake is appropriate." Judge Hamilton straightened Melissa's collar. "I watched you for years, you know. Your dedication, your integrity, your compassion. The bench needs those qualities." "Thank you for believing in me," Melissa said softly. "You did the hard part," Judge Hamilton replied. "You believed in yourself when no one else did." The ceremony itself was brief but profound. Standing before the packed courtroom, hand raised, Melissa spoke the oath that transformed her from Melissa Carter, court clerk and single mother, to Judge Melissa Carter, sworn to uphold the Constitution and administer justice with impartiality and integrity. As she repeated the final words, her eyes found Sophie's. Her daughter was watching with such pride, such absolute confidence in her mother, that Melissa felt a surge of emotion that nearly overwhelmed her composure. Judge Hamilton presented her to the assembled crowd. "It is my distinct honor to present Judge Melissa Carter." The courtroom erupted in applause. Her parents stood clapping with genuine pride. Rebecca, after a moment's hesitation, rose to join them. But it was Sophie's beaming face that Melissa sought and found among the crowd. After the ceremony, as people gathered to congratulate her, Sophie worked her way through the adults to reach her mother's side. "Judge Mom," she said, testing out the title with a grin. Melissa laughed, bending to hug her. "Still just Mom to you, sweetheart." Ellen approached, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "The robe suits you, Melissa." "Thank you, Mom." "We're hosting a small celebration lunch," Ellen continued. "Nothing elaborate, just family. If you and Sophie can make it." Melissa glanced at Sophie, who nodded eagerly. "We'd be happy to come." Robert cleared his throat. "We're proud of you, Melissa. I know we haven't shown it these past years, but we are Very proud, Ellen added, her voice catching slightly. As the crowd began to disperse, Judge Hamilton appeared at Melissa's side. Enjoy today, Judge Carter. Tomorrow, the real work begins. I'm ready, Melissa said confidently. I know you are, the senior judge smiled. By the way, I've assigned you your first case. Nothing too complex for a beginning judge, a straightforward contract dispute. Her eyes twinkled. The following week, however, you'll be hearing the Henderson case. With Prosecutor Pierce, Melissa realized. Indeed, I thought it fitting. As they left the courthouse, Sophie slipped her hand into Melissa's. Mom, are things going to be different now? Melissa considered the question. Some things will change. We'll have a more stable schedule, better financial security. But not the important things, right? Like our ice cream dance parties and reading together? Melissa squeezed her daughter's hand. The important things will never change. We're still a team, you and I. Sophie nodded, satisfied. That's good, because I think I want to be a judge too someday. You can be anything you want to be, Melissa told her. That's the most important lesson in all of this. The path might not be straight, and it might not be easy, but if you believe in yourself and work for what matters to you, then nothing is impossible, Sophie finished for her. As they walked down the courthouse steps into the bright spring sunshine, Melissa felt a profound sense of completion. The journey hadn't been what she'd expected, but it had brought her exactly where she was meant to be. Judge Melissa Carter, a title earned through perseverance, sacrifice, and the quiet courage to pursue her dreams on her own terms, with a little girl beside her who had taught her more about strength and dignity than any law book ever could. Wow, what a story. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any of our upcoming content.